Hello, it's Duncan. My aim was to show every significant edit to our Test Driven Gilded Rose codebase. But in practice, there's a whole category of changes I haven't shown you. Updating dependencies. As many of our dependencies now have new versions, I thought that now would be a good time to show my thought processes in deciding when, how, and whether to keep up to date. It's a bit tedious, to be honest. As you'll see, it mainly goes smoothly, with occasional bouts of having to work through issues we really shouldn't have, and at least one problem I just don't know how to solve. Gradle. It's been a while since we worked in this project, and code rots unless we make an effort to stop it rotting. So let's have a look at the versions of things we're using and see whether we can bring them up to date. Here's our Gradle file, but the first real question is what version of Gradle are we using? And you don't seem to be able to find out by looking at the build.gradle, so instead, let's ask on the command line, we'll say /gradle-w -- version. Okay, then we're using Gradle 8.7. which itself is using Kotlin 1.9.22, but actually our project is using, up here somewhere, Kotlin version 2.0. And I think we've been around this loop before. This is building using Java version 21, because Gradle is a Java program and I'm using JM to run a particular version of Java. Gradle is or are good enough to tell us that its latest version is 8.10.2, so it looks like we're a little bit off the edge there. Let's see whether we can work out how to upgrade Gradle. Upgrade with the Gradle wrapper. So let's try that and see how we do. So we'll paste this into here. That doesn't really do anything yet, but next time we invoke Gradle, we'll go for the version. It will download the new one. And now Gradle is itself 8.10.2. And now the moment of truth is, can we do a clean build? Well, in fact, IntelliJ is still importing the project itself, so we can just wait for that to happen. Didn't say that it didn't work. Let's ask it to do /gradle-w clean test. Okay, that seems to be going. That has actually been a painless Gradle upgrade. Hooray! Okay then, now Gradle itself is upgraded. We can look at the versions of the dependencies it's building with. Kotlin itself is at version 2.0.0. We have two other plugins at various versions. We have JUnit at a version, Jackson at a version, Kotlin coroutines, result4k, SLF4j, and so on. All have what may be out-of-date versions. Now, if our software was running in a nuclear reactor, not only would it be slightly better tested than this is, but we might want to phase our version upgrades so that if anything does go wrong in any stage of our testing, we know which particular upgrade it was. So we might not want to upgrade both HTTP/4K and the version of Kotlin at the same time, for example. We'd want to upgrade one of those, deploy it to a good test environment, run lots and lots of tests, and then if something went wrong, we know that it was the upgrade to HTTP/4K that was the issue and not the upgrade to Kotlin. Here at Common Gilded Rose, our biggest issue is annoying Alison. She has a fierce temper if things go wrong when she's busy, but I think we can risk upgrading many dependencies at once, but we'll run our local tests between them. So what order should we approach them in? Well, what are our options? I suppose we could start at the top of the file and work our way down, or we could start the most out-of-date version. If you look on F2, you'll see that there are vulnerabilities found in HTTP/4K, so we might decide that those are high priority. But given that we're probably going to do everything today, maybe the actual order doesn't matter so much. I'm going to go with starting with the low-hanging fruit, and in that case, I think probably upgrading JUnit is the thing. So, how do we find the latest version? I wonder if there's a quick fix. Not, unfortunately. If we were building this in GitHub, we might use something like Dependabot, but there's a Gradle plugin that will do things for us, and it is here, and it says we can just add it as a plugin. Ironically, it doesn't tell us which version of itself to use, but this says 0.51.0. So let's remember 0.51.0, copy that, go into here, add that as 0.51.0. Gradle does a thing, and now let's have a look at our tasks. We now have dependencies down here. Oh no, those just list the dependencies. Where are our tasks? Can't see them. Refresh again. I'm looking for dependency updates and not seeing it. Click in here and type dependency updates. No. So the plugin says I should be able to run dependency updates. It's there. Let's try it on the command line instead. /gradle-w dependency updates. Okay, let's have a look, see what we've got. It says it is itself its latest version. The Duke Gradle plugin appears to be the latest version. The Kotlin build tools, version 2.0.0. I don't think that is the latest version as it happens. We'll come back to that. Playwright we could upgrade. Hikari connection pool we could upgrade. Result for K we could upgrade. Strikt we could upgrade. Flyway HB for K. We were specifically looking for JUnit. Here we are, 5.11.3. So let's go and do 5.11.3 for JUnit as low-hanging fruit. It's in one place, 5.11.3. Let's run all our tests, and given that we use JUnit to run Playwright tests, maybe we'll run all the browser tests as well. Close new, open new. Lots of local tests, and then Playwright. Okay, well that seems good. Let's commit that with upgrade JUnit to 5.11.3 and commit that. And as I say, if we have a continuous integration server, we might want to push these individual changes to it so we can check there are no errors with each one. Okay then, while we're on the testing kick, let's have a look at Playwright. So up the top here somewhere we were told that Playwright we could upgrade to 148.0. So let's find Playwright in here, 148.0, and rerun our tests. And that's now paused. Here we are. We're downloading new versions of browsers for the new version of Playwright. Playwright is sort of tied to particular browser versions in some odd way. I think you can use it to run against different browser versions, but the path of least resistance is to just let it use whatever version it wants. But here we are running now with the new versions of the browsers, and that seems happy. So we'll commit that with upgrade Playwright to 1.48.0. Strikt here is another one of our test libraries, so let's take that. Not a major upgrade. We will refresh Gradle and run. And I'm running the browser test at the moment. I think maybe our non-browser test will be good enough for now, except at the very end. So commit that as upgrade. Good. Now then, HTTP for K is clever enough to use a bill of materials, whatever that is, but it does mean that we can upgrade all of its components in one go. So we can take 5.32.4.0, and here we change the version of the bill of materials, and that will change the versions used by all of these little wizards. That also gets rid of our warning about transitive dependency issues. So let's try now running all in Gilded Rose, with the knowledge that gives HTTP4K a good workout. Nice and quick, good. Upgrade HTTP4K. Okay, that seems like a good time to rerun the dependency plugin, find out what it's still reporting on. Oh, interesting, now it's downloading some other things for some reason. Don't quite understand that. But we seem to be okay, and looking at the bottom here, failed to determine the latest version for the following dependencies. Well, these are our Jackson dependencies. I don't know why, and I'm not sure I can be bothered to find out. So let's have a look. If we take this thing, maybe AI Assistant would be useful to us. I'm going to say, what is the latest version of Jackson databind? It looks like Jackson databind is included. Yes, thank you. To determined, I recommend looking at whether it's defined. Well, that's all true, but actually no help at all. I'm going to go to Google with the same question, which is that. Paste our query. A link to the mavenrepository.com seems like a good one. And we can go here to see that 2.18.0 is the latest. So let's copy that into IntelliJ and Jackson version 2.18.0. Now then, let's run the tests. That's all good. One thing I would say about Jackson, though, is because we use it to reflectively marshal things into JSON, in particular with our structured logging, that would be the sort of place where we can make a change to our application that we didn't see, that we might find that we weren't logging particular properties or that the format of our logging changed in some sort of way. The blast radius of that sort of change in Gilded Rose is quite low, but if it would be high for your project, then this is the sort of change I would deploy independently of others. So I'm going to say we've upgraded Jackson to the number I was remembering. Good. Time for my lunch, I think. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, back to our dependencies report. Looking at it, it's interesting. In fact, it says failed to determine the latest version for the following dependencies. But in fact, that version was the 2.18. So maybe we'll see something different if we rerun. Well, still saying the same thing. What have we got left? We've got Duke and Postgres Kotlin X coroutines. And it's now decided, it seems that Kotlin could go from 2 to 2.1 beta. Not sure I want betas really. Result for K, the Hikari connection pool, and now an awful lot of things are up to date at the top. Good. Starting with Hikari, and it is the upgrade here is to 6.0.0, and there's certainly people who don't like upgrades to 0.0 of a thing. Gilded Rose is still saving both to a database and to a flat file though, so maybe while we're still doing that, it's a good time to upgrade Hikari, because if there are any issues, we'll see them because our flat file will disagree with our database. So let's take that for Hikari. Hikari 6.0.0. Oh, mess that up. Run our tests. Oh, that's rather strange. Maybe I needed to refresh Gradle. And try again. Yes, that was all that was. Commit, upgrade Hikari to 6.0.0. I'll rush the result for K to 2.20.0. That's here. Remind ourselves to refresh Gradle, as that doesn't always seem to be happening automatically. Okay, good. Result for K. And coroutines, I guess we can take that as well. So that's here and there. This is the sort of thing I might expect would have issues in terms of deprecating some stuff. Don't know. But at the very least, everything compiles. So coroutines to 1.9.0. And when I say compiles, I mean compiles and runs our tests. Okay, then now we have a set of database libraries. We have Duke, we have Postgres, and we have Flyway. Given where we are, I'm inclined to do those as a batch, and then to check that we can actually run all our migrations, maybe even tear down the whole database and start again. So I'll just upgrade these versions. Duke goes to 3.19.14. We have Postgres. Postgres goes to 42.7.4. That's just the driver. 42.5.3, 42.7.4. Check Gradle is still happy to find all those things, and it appears to be. And the Duke code gen, I'm assuming, is gone to the same version as Duke itself. And then we have Flyway, which says 10.20.0. So we'll put that in there. And now I'm going to run the dependency check one more time. Well, that's moved Duke on and Postgres on, and also Flyway. We're getting an odd thing here. Postgres is now saying 42.7.4. Have I messed that up? 42.7.4. I have that. And we have the same issue here with Duke, where it's saying we're using 3.19.1 but 3.19.4. I'm not honestly sure what's going on there. I wonder whether those are dependencies of our dependencies. Maybe in fact the dependency of this Duke plugin. Possible. I'm not going to worry about that for a moment. First of all, I am going to run all of our tests, check that that's okay. These pauses are, I assume, it downloading dependencies. Okay, everything seems happy, but given we changed Duke and Flyway, we're going to want to know that we can affect our database. Now the first of those is that Duke generates Java files. So I think we probably want to say gradle-w clean to get rid of those, and then test, just to make sure we can still generate the mapping code. So generate Duke is running, and we seem to have some interesting warnings I haven't seen before. This type has been deprecated, it seems. That looks like a Playwright issue that we didn't notice. We'll come back to it. To make sure that all our database changes are applicable, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the Docker containers for our databases, and also the volumes with data on them, so that there's nothing up our sleeve. Now I think if I run the tests, they shouldn't run because the database won't be running. Let's find out. There we go. So a bunch of database errors because the database is dead. Let's kill that. Come back here, remind ourselves we had this db start db script which does docker compose up. So I think we'll run that. That's db/startdb. That should create new containers and a new volume. Now if we run the test though, we still expect it to fail because we won't have a database actually created. There we go. And now we'll try running Flyway migrate. Oh, well that's failing, and I suppose that's just the sort of thing I was trying to find out would still work. I wonder why it isn't. Well, I've banged my head against this for a while now, and I don't understand it. It says here, no database found to handle JDBC PostgreSQL 5433 Gilded Rose. That comes about, I think, because in our build.gradle, we specify that our test JDBC URL is either JDBC URL from the environment or else Postgres running on this port. Now our Docker compose file, the one that happened because we ran startdb, you can see here runs up a thing called test database mapping a local port 5433. And in fact, if we go to our database view here, this properties is Postgres running on 5433, and if we test the connection, it apparently is succeeding. So I'm a bit confused. I think what I might try is rolling back the version of Flyway, see whether that solves our problem. Go back to our build and Flyway. Let's just roll back that. Check for our other changes. Everything seems reasonable. And here's our Flyway configuration. You see it's using that variable we were defining up above. So let's reload that and try rerunning Flyway migrate. And now we're okay. Back here, undo the change to the Flyway version to make it 10.2. Reload. I'm going to try running from here, even though our database should be up to date. So that issue seems to be entirely around the Flyway version. Right then, well, a bit of experimentation shows that Flyway 9.22.3, which is the last of the Flyway 9 versions, seems to work. So having removed the container and the volume, we can now rerun startdb. Now we've got two databases ready to accept the connection. If we run all of our tests, well, in fact they'll fail because we removed all of the Duke generated code. So let's go back to Gradle. We'll run Flyway migrate. That seems to be happy. We'll run generate Duke. That seems to be happy. And now can we run all of our tests? Not yet. Okay, Duke hasn't been generated, it looks like. Let's remind ourselves in here, this was a little hack so that generate Duke wasn't run every time. I have a really nasty feeling that if we comment that out and run clean test, it will generate Duke. There it runs, and compile, and everything is okay. Can I run more tests here now? Yes, I can, which means I must have a database running. Don't really know what to do about this line here. Without this all inputs declared, it'll be slowing down the build quite a bit because it was trying to generate Duke every time. That's a problem I think I'll come back to. As is the issue of Flyway versions 10 and higher, now that we know that we can kill and reconfigure our database with the versions that we've got, I'm inclined to check this in with upgrade db dependencies and then remind ourselves an issue with Flyway 10 plus stops us going there. Okay then, dependency updates for hopefully the last time. See what it has to say. We don't want to upgrade Gradle to release candidate. That seems to be meeting trouble halfway. Jackson we know is okay, don't know what this is about. Oh, SLF4J I haven't done. We don't understand these versions here. I'll have a look later, but Kotlin itself seems like the big one. I don't want to go for 2.1 beta, but let's see whether AI Assistant knows what is the latest version of Kotlin. And the answer is, as of October 2023, is Kotlin 1.9, showing that AI Assistant is really just using an LLM that's really quite out of date. To ensure you're using the latest version, you can check the hyperlink removed for security reasons, or their hyperlink removed for security reasons. Oh dear. Okay, back to Google. A good old-fashioned web page has 2.0.21, so we'll take that. And in here, we will say 2.0.21. Make sure to refresh Gradle. Oh, it seems to be doing it anyway. And now let's run our browser tests as well as everything else. Some slowness around downloading dependencies, I should think. And everything still seems to work, so let's call that upgrade Kotlin to 2.0.21. At this point, we have a number of code analysis issues, most of which are on our build.gradle. Well, that's all it's telling us about for now, but we know we did have some Duke issues somewhere that are just too wiped out to deal with at the moment. Before we go, I think it's worth saying in here, 10.x gives issues connecting, and I will go and fix up SLF4J in my own time so that you don't have to. For something that we have to do so often, upgrading dependencies is strangely stressful and lacking tooling support, and especially when it comes to plugins or Gradle itself, liable to end up with sometimes open-ended additional work. If anyone knows, by the way, what issues I'm having with Flyway 10, please do let me know in the comments below. If you have anyone in your team who enjoys keeping things up to date and solving these build problems, then for goodness sake, don't let them go. Or if you have to and they're in the UK, then please send them to me. Next week on Team Gilded Rose, I think we've earned the right to start work on some new functionality. If you'd like to do that and you're not subscribed, then now would be a great time to do that. Press that like button, because someone in the world may be interested in upgrading dependencies, and you could support my work by buying a copy of the book that I wrote with Nat Price called Java to Kotlin, a Refactoring Guidebook, details of which are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching.